Hello friends, John here. I'm glad you could make it. Today I'll be referring to and commenting on a George R.R. Martin Not a Blog post put out, I think, April 14th called A Knight and a Squire. For those of you that saw my video titled George R.R. Martin Will Never Finish A Song of Ice and Fire, keep your ears open and think back to what I talked about in that video as I go over stuff today and see if things I talked about don't relate to this stuff. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link below. And after you watch this one, go back and see if a lot of things I was talking about weren't correct. I do want to emphasize that any of my comments and reactions to what I'm reading of his aren't meant to denigrate his work or say, I hope he doesn't complete any of the stuff he's working on. I hope he does finish everything he wants to. And I hope it turns out well. I enjoyed House of Dragon first season. I did a review of that. I'll put a link of that too. On to the blog post. HBO has greenlit, not a pilot, but a whole first season for a TV series based on his Duncan Egg characters that were in 3 novellas, which they combined later into one book. The working title is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, A Hedge Knight. The first part of that title is the title of the book that was the compilation. The second part, The Hedge Knight, is the first novella. Their plan is apparently to make each novella as a season, with 6 episodes planned, which is tentative. It's also possible working titles frequently change before a show is aired, so it could be that it changes. Now, George Martin was adamant in this blog that no way they're going to put Duncan Egg in the title. They're not going to change it to something like The Adventures of Duncan Egg. He doesn't want that. He thinks duo names are associated with comedy teams. Beavis and Butthead, Abbott and Costello, Laverne and Shirley. He doesn't want anybody who knows nothing about the books to mistake it for some kind of comedy. Now we'll get into the reading the parts that set me off and got me motivated to do this. Got me agitated. I'll read some quotes from him. If The Hedge Knight turns out as we hope it will, our hope will be to go on and adapt Sworn Sword and The Mystery Knight. Those are the other 2 novellas, so they can have 3 seasons of stuff that he's already written to adapt. That will take a few years. Then comes the hard part. Before we reach the end of the published stories, I will need to find time to write all the other Duncan Egg novellas that I have planned. Does that ring a bell? He was supposed to write more books for the Game of Thrones. He had plenty of time. Sounds familiar, right? Let's go on. There are ... Gulp. More of them than I once thought. You could ask me, George. I would have told you there was more. Of course there's more. A Song of Ice and Fire was going to be a trilogy, and look what it turned into. I could have told him that. You could have told him that. Now he continues, there's the village hero and the Winterfell story, the one with the she-wolves, and maybe I need to write that Dornish adventure to slip in between the Hedge Knight and the Sworn Sword. Now he doesn't have the time of 3 seasons to finish them. Now he's got to squeeze one in between. Oh no. To be fair, they're self-contained stories. So it's not as essential with Game of Thrones. There's no big mysteries and dramatic things set up where you want a conclusion. They hang and build for seasons. The story should finish themselves each season if they do a novella season. So in all fairness, even if he doesn't finish the books, it's not such a big deal as it was with Game of Thrones. Even if it ends with 3 seasons, it's not like, oh boy, the stories aren't done. Well, let's continue. And after that, there are ... his words, not mine, more. He's got all these things he wants to do already planned, and then there are more after that. This is what really gives me a brain aneurysm next. I just need to finish The Winds of Winter and then do either A Dream of Spring or Volume 2 of Fire and Blood. And slip in a new Duncan Egg between each of those. What does he think? I fell off a turnip truck? Does he actually believe this? Is he deluding himself? Or he does think I fell off a turnip truck. All the other fans fell off a turnip truck too. Give me your comments. Do you think he just deludes himself? He actually believes in his own mind that he's going to do all this work and squeeze in the extra stories. He's got 3 seasons of the other to do it. Is he going to do it? Does he actually believe that? What is he taking? Is medical marijuana legal in his state or something? What is he on? What? I should have finished before I cut it off. Let me redo it because it gets even worse. I just need to finish The Winds of Winter and do either A Dream of Spring or Volume 2 of Fire of Blood and slip in a new Dunkin' Egg between each of those in my copious spare time. And that will keep me ahead of Ira and his merry crew for a few more years. Ira and his crew are the ones working on Dunkin' Egg. He's going to keep ahead of them? That will keep him ahead of them? How is he going to get ahead of them? Doing all that, not just the Dunkin' Egg stuff. He's going to be doing these other books and stuff. All the other books. He's going to squeeze them in between. How's he going to do that? And he can't make up his mind. Well, should I do A Dream of Spring or the Fire and Blood Volume 2 first? Like, maybe you ought to finish A Song of Ice and Fire. My brain's going to explode. Now we get to the part where I was a fortune teller. If you saw my other thing, listen to this and see if you can remember it. He says, well, I will worry about that tomorrow. Does that ring a bell? I didn't use those exact words, but did I say anything like that? Well, let's finish the second part. Maybe you'll recollect. And he says, today we're celebrating. So he's enjoying the glory and basking in the glory of getting a new show and all. Back in my other video, I was talking about him basking in the glory, going on TV shows, interviews, conventions and things, and getting all the glory, basking in the glory, enjoying it, celebrating. What I said too is like, I forget the exact phrase. Well, then I'll do that work later. I'll do that next week. I'll do it later. Then he says, Dunkin' Egg are coming. Those of you who have not yet made their acquaintance should pick up a copy of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Did I say anything like that too? Like, hey, I'm not finishing this. Buy my other books. Go back. You don't believe me. I got a lot more stuff that's similar, but I'm just pointing out a few. Go back. Well, as a mind reader, I did that back in November last year. Look at that. I'm a psychic, or is it a mind reader? Is it a psychic or a fortune teller? I don't know. Do psychics just read the minds, or do they tell the future? He says one more thing before I close, and then he talks about how long it took for House of Dragon and Dunkin' Egg to develop. He pitched them 7 years ago. Development takes time. Surprises me, he says Namiria's show and the Sea Snake show are still in development. In fact, he just had a great week working with the writers on the Sea Snake. How many things is he working on? You think he's going to finish A Song of Ice and Fire? I didn't fall off a turnip truck. I don't think you did. Finally, he says, when I was in grade school, there was a cop show that ended every week with, there are 8 million stories in the Naked City. As an aside, the Naked City was the name of the police show. This has been one of them, and that was only New York City. Westeros and Essos are a lot bigger with even more stories. We just need time to tell them. How much time did you have for A Song of Ice and Fire? You haven't finished it. Now you're adding more and more? What do you think? You get infinite time? Now this is the kicker too. I got to the bottom of this thing and it says comments are disabled for this post. He probably read my post and disabled it because he knew I would just put that comment that I just did. I don't know how many ha-ha-has I did, but that's what I would have posted if I could have put a comment. He's probably read mine. He's one of the people that gave me a downvote. Some people gave me downvotes. At least they put comments, but some people didn't. So I think he's one of them. Any event, if you have any comments or opinions on this post, leave a comment. I'd like to read them. Thanks a lot. Have a nice day.